The bitter taste of betrayal, my wife's infidelity, was a chilling welcome home, far more devastating than any battlefield I'd ever known. Just when I thought I was free from the constant threat of enemy fire, I returned to find a different kind of war had been waged in my own home, a war orchestrated by Clara and my own brother. Prior to finding myself gazing out the coach window at the familiar avenues of Willow Creek, my existence had been a whirlwind of responsibilities and remote locations. My time in the Air Force had taken me across the globe, providing 4 years of unforgettable experiences, yet simultaneously fostering a sense of profound detachment from those I held most dear. It wasn't simple to manage the crushing burden of duty alongside the gnawing ache of yearning for home, but I convinced myself it was all for a greater purpose, a future I truly believed in, a life waiting for me back in California. Clara, my spouse, was my anchor, or so I believe with every fiber of my being. We had established a vibrant, hopeful life together before the deployments commenced, a foundation built on shared dreams and unwavering affection. But with each successive mission, with every passing month spent thousands of miles apart, I observed the insidious emergence of hairline fractures in that foundation. Letters gradually became brief, hurried phone calls, devoid of the intimate details and shared laughter we once exchanged. The warmth in her voice, once a soothing balm, began to diminish, replaced by a polite, almost detached tone. It was challenging to pinpoint the exact moment, but I sensed we were drifting apart, like two ships silently diverging in a vast, dark ocean. The profound affection we once shared seemed to be buried beneath layers of time, space, and unspoken distances. Nevertheless, as the coach sped through the golden, sun-drenched Californian countryside, I clung desperately to the hope that returning home would mark a fresh beginning for us, an opportunity to painstakingly reconstruct what had crumbled into dust. I envisioned us sitting on the porch swing, recounting our separate experiences, rebuilding our intimacy brick by painful brick. As the vehicle glided past the sprawling entrance to Willow Creek Wildlife Park, an almost physical jolt of realization struck me. I was almost home. After enduring a grueling 5-hour journey across the state, the culmination of months of anticipation was finally within reach. Just a short drive more, and I'd be in Willow Creek, poised to set down my heavy bags, shake off the lingering fatigue of travel, and embrace the comforting familiarity of my own surroundings. Most importantly, I would see Clara again, my wife, after half a year apart. The prospect of our reunion, after such a prolonged separation, stirred a complex mix of anticipation and apprehension within me, a cocktail of yearning and a subtle, unsettling trepidation I couldn't quite articulate. I am Alex Miller, a 27-year-old who, until recently, held the rank of senior airman in the Air Force. My 4-year enlistment as a fighter avionics technician, primarily involving the meticulous maintenance of complex aircraft electronics, had just concluded. I had recently finished my third 6-month overseas deployment, this time stationed at Rheinberg Air Base in Germany, a place where the gray skies often mirrored my internal struggles. After landing at Griffin Air Base earlier today, I opted for a coach ride across the vast California landscape. It was a conscious choice, a way to decompress, to allow the rolling hills and distant mountains to calm my mind, and to contemplate my future now that my military service was honorably complete. The roar of jet engines had been replaced by the steady hum of the bus, a welcome change. My father, George, had managed our family's electrical business in Willow Creek for many years, a legacy passed down through generations. Following high school, my twin brother, Ben, and I interned with him, learning the trade from the ground up, navigating dusty attics and cramped crawl spaces. Once I obtained my electrician qualifications, I enlisted in the Air Force, seeking a different path, a broader horizon. Ben, ever the more grounded one, remained to assist our parents, seemingly content with the familiar rhythms of Willow Creek. Although I have an unwavering standing offer to return to the business, a safety net always available, I'm uncertain if I truly wish to accept it. Working in confined spaces like stuffy ceilings, grappling with stubborn wiring, and handling demanding, often impatient clients holds little appeal after the high-stakes precision of avionics. I'd much prefer to explore new avenues, perhaps something related to my technical skills, though it would undoubtedly be pleasant to regularly see Mom, Dad, Clara, and Ben again to reintegrate into the family fold. Clara and I first met during my internship at Miller Electric's, a serendipitous encounter that blossomed into what I believed was true love. We married a year after I joined the Air Force, a whirlwind romance punctuated by the looming shadow of my deployments. Lately, however, our relationship hadn't been what I'd hoped, certainly not the effortless connection it once was. Before my last deployment, a subtle but undeniable distance had begun to grow between us, and the extended separation only exacerbated the issue, widening the chasm. After 5 years together and 3 years of marriage, perhaps the initial spark had simply faded, consumed by the relentless pressures of distance and time. Yet, I was determined to discover a way to reignite that spark, to rekindle the flame that had once burned so brightly. Clara, originally from the Central Plains, a world away from California, had relocated to the Bay Area for a business degree and now essentially managed our family's electrical business, despite my mother, Eleanor, being the official titular manager. Clara oversaw finances, logistics, and inventory, ensuring smooth, efficient operations, a testament to her sharp mind and organizational skills. I suspected she took the position primarily to remain close to the family while I was away, even though it wasn't her blood relation, a gesture I deeply appreciated. I was unsure how she would react to my decision not to rejoin the business. It was a conversation I dreaded. After disembarking the coach a few blocks from home, my legs stiff but my spirits buoyed by proximity, I completed the rest of the journey on foot, dragging my duffel bag behind me. I arrived at 4 p.m., the afternoon sun casting long shadows. Since Clara was scheduled to pick me up from Northwood at 7 p.m., following my anticipated stop at Sterling Air Base, I wasn't certain if she would be home yet. Fortunately, an unexpectedly early arrival at Griffin Air Base allowed me to catch a direct coach across California, bypassing the military transport system entirely. Upon entering the house, the familiar scent of home, a mix of Clara's perfume and old wood, enveloped me. Everything appeared just as it had 6 months prior, a comforting tableau of domesticity. I made my way to the bedroom to drop my heavy bag and noticed the bed was disheveled, the sheets tangled on the floor, a hint of hurried activity. The distinct sound of running water emanated from the shower. Clara must be home. A wave of relief, tinged with excitement, washed over me. "Are you getting ready to pick me up?" I called out, my voice laced with a playful anticipation. Startled, she shrieked, a sharp, almost panicked sound. "Oh my goodness, you startled me. What are you doing home already?" Her voice was higher than usual, laced with an edge I didn't recognize. "I got dropped off early," I replied, my smile faltering slightly at her reaction. It wasn't the excited, loving tone I'd hoped for. "I'll be out soon." "Okay," she quickly said, the words tumbling out. "Just give me a few minutes." "I was considering joining you," I added, trying to lighten the mood, a hint of exhaustion in my voice. "I've been on the road for nearly 24 hours. Her tone was firm, almost clipped. I'll finish up quickly, and you can shower after." There was no warmth, no invitation. Her reaction wasn't what I had hoped for. No immediate embrace, no exuberant excitement, no rush to see me. It stung, a cold splash of water on my hopeful reunion. I left the bathroom, a sense of unease settling in my gut, gathered my laundry, and started the washer, the mundane chore a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil bubbling within me. When I returned to the living room, Clara walked in wearing a plush bathrobe and a towel wrapped around her still damp hair. She looked tired, her eyes a little too wide. "So you're truly done with the Air Force? They didn't make you re-enlist?" she inquired, her voice flat, as if discussing the weather. "They tried, but no, I'm done," I responded, a flicker of disappointment in my voice at her lack of genuine interest. "Can they still call you back?" she pressed, a strange urgency in her tone. "Only if there's a war, and even then, not for the next 4 years because of my contract," I explained patiently. She nodded, a distant look in her eyes, and proceeded to the bedroom without another word. I went to the kitchen for a glass of water, feeling profoundly disheartened. This wasn't the homecoming I had envisioned. No joyous reunion, no warmth, no passion. She acted as if I'd been gone for a mere day, not half a year. It was unsettling. I followed her to the bedroom and observed as she hastily tidied up, shoving items into drawers and smoothing the rumpled sheets. "Are you just going to stand there, or will you help me?" she asked, not looking up from her task, her voice strained. "I'm not here to tidy up," I said, my voice rising slightly. "Why does the room look like a tornado hit it? Have you been sleeping poorly, and during the day too?" I questioned, a knot tightening in my stomach. She paused, her movements freezing, and finally looked at me, her eyes unreadable. "I was late for work this morning. I came home early to get ready for your return," she said, her voice a little too defensive. "And you're still not happy to see me?" I pressed, the question hanging heavy in the air. She didn't respond, simply turning back to the bed, her shoulders hunched. Frustrated, a cold dread creeping into my heart, I walked back to the living room and sank onto the couch. I didn't think she was cheating. The thought was too painful to entertain, but her utter indifference was deeply unsettling, completely unlike the Clara I knew. Our relationship had felt distant even before I departed for Germany, and now her coldness exacerbated it, turning what I hoped was a temporary lull into a chilling void. I lay down on the couch, the fatigue finally overwhelming me, and drifted off into an uneasy sleep. Sometime later, I heard her voice, softer this time. "Alex, dinner will be ready soon. Go take a shower." Her voice roused me from a deep, dreamless sleep. It was already dark outside. I must have slept for hours. My muscles ached, but the long rest had done me some good. I rose, went to the bathroom, and stepped into the hot shower. The warmth enveloped me, washing away the lingering fatigue and some of the emotional chill, leaving me feeling refreshed and calm, at least for the moment. When I returned to the dining room, Clara had already set the table, the warm glow of the chandelier reflecting off the polished wood. Plated before me was a generous porterhouse steak with creamy mashed potatoes, my favorite. A small smile touched my lips, a fragile flicker of hope. "Smells amazing," I remarked as I took my seat, the aroma of cooked meat filling the air. She smiled, a faint, almost shy curve of her lips. "Welcome home, Alex." "Thanks," I replied, cutting into the perfectly cooked steak. It was a small gesture, but it meant something. "We got ice cream for dessert too," she added, sitting across from me, her gaze briefly meeting mine before drifting to her plate. As I savored the meal, the silence between us occasionally broken by the clinking of cutlery, I glanced at her, trying to read her expression. "Why didn't you call me from Northwood?" I asked, remembering her expectation. I could have picked you up. I didn't land at Sterling. I explained, taking another bite. I flew into Griffin this morning and took a coach home directly. I thought you'd still be at work. Did you stop at your mom and dad's first? She inquired, her voice betraying a hint of curiosity. No, I said, shaking my head slightly. I came straight home to see my loving wife. Her expression softened, a subtle shift, but then she looked apologetic, almost embarrassed. Sorry for the lukewarm reception, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. I had plans for tonight, but you caught me off guard. That's okay, I said with a shrug, trying to dismiss the lingering hurt. We got time to catch up, all the time in the world now. Clara ate quietly after that, rarely looking up, her gaze fixed on her plate. She seemed distracted, lost in her own thoughts, a wall between us. I broke the silence, trying to bridge the gap. Do you still enjoy working with my family? Now that I'm back, you don't have to stay there if you don't want to. I know you only took the job to be near them while I was gone. She looked up briefly, her eyes flicking to mine. I like it. If I didn't, I'd tell you. I'm fine with it, she said, her tone almost curt, dismissive. I said reassuringly, I just thought you were working there to stay close to them while I was gone. Now that I'm back, it's entirely your choice. Your degree opens up a lot of options, you know. Your mom's great to work with, she replied, avoiding my eyes. And Dad and Ben, they still treating you well? I asked, trying to gauge her comfort level. Of course, she said, nodding, a faint, almost imperceptible blush coloring her cheeks. Your dad relies on Eleanor and me for the day-to-day, and Ben's as nice as ever. The guys respect me because they know I'm in charge of operations. We finished eating and moved to the living room for ice cream, a ritual from our early dating days. Clara, however, chose to sit in a separate armchair instead of next to me on the couch, and I couldn't shake the growing feeling that she was deliberately avoiding physical contact, avoiding me. After she finished her ice cream, she picked up the remote, clearly intending to put on the TV. Clara, I said gently, my voice quiet but firm, could you turn off the TV and come sit with me? We haven't really talked. She hesitated for a moment, her fingers hovering over the buttons, but eventually, with a sigh, she joined me on the couch. She perched on the very edge, as far from me as possible without being obvious, a palpable distance between us. I pulled her closer, wrapping an arm around her, but when I leaned in to kiss her, she subtly turned her head and hugged me, instead, a stiff, almost perfunctory embrace. It felt hollow, like embracing a sibling, devoid of any romantic passion. I pulled back, a cold dread washing over me, and looked at her, searching her eyes. What's going on, Clara? My voice was tight with suppressed emotion. Her eyes darted away, refusing to meet mine. What do you mean? She mumbled, her voice barely audible. Come on, I said, my voice firm but not harsh, my frustration beginning to simmer. I've been gone 6 months, and you haven't kissed me once. You're actively avoiding me. You're cold, distant. What's changed? Is there someone else? When Clara glared at me, her face hardening into a mask of anger, and then stormed off to the bedroom, I thought she'd finally speak, unleash a torrent of words. But instead, she slammed the door behind her with a resounding thud that rattled the walls. Where are you going? You can't even answer a simple question. I called after her, my voice rising in disbelief. I took a few deep breaths, trying to rein in my mounting anger, and followed her, only to find the door locked. Clara, can you open the door so we could talk about this? Please. Silence was her only response, an echoing void that amplified my fears. Frustrated, hurt, and utterly confused, I went back to the living room, lay on the couch, and turned on the news, hoping the mundane drone of current events would distract me. Thoughts swirled in my mind. Was she angry because I questioned her? Or because I'd hit the mark? The possibility clawed at my gut. Morning light, a stark, unwelcome brightness, roused me from a fitful sleep on the couch. My neck was stiff, and my mind was still racing. I stretched, trying to shake off the lingering sense of unease, and headed to the kitchen for coffee, a desperate craving for routine. As I walked toward the bedroom to ask Clara if she wanted some, I noticed the door was slightly ajar, but she wasn't there. Her side of the bed was untouched. Her car was gone. Had she already left for work without a word? Checking my phone, I realized it was nearly 8 a.m., surprisingly late for me, especially after a night like that. After brewing a strong pot of coffee, the aroma filling the silent house, I decided to eat breakfast before heading to my parents' business, figuring I'd catch Clara there and force a conversation. In the garage, my dusty old pickup truck wouldn't start. The battery was dead, a frustrating symbol of how disconnected I'd been from my life here. I pushed it to the sloping road. The physical exertion, a welcome distraction, jump-started it with a sense of triumph and made a mental note to visit the garage for a checkup later that day. After having a quick, solitary breakfast at a diner near my parents' store, the mundane bustle of the place a strange comfort, I arrived at Miller Electric's. As I headed toward the back of the store, a young employee behind the counter, new to me, stopped me. "Sorry, sir, staff only," he said firmly, blocking my path. "I'm Alex Miller, George's son," I replied, a hint of my old authority in my voice. Recognition dawned on his face, his eyes widening. "You're the Air Force guy? Oh, wow. They're all here, Mr. Miller," he said, stepping aside to let me pass, a sheepish grin on his face. In the storeroom, the heart of the operation, I immediately noticed my twin brother, Ben, and Clara at the far end, partially obscured by towering shelves of electrical supplies. They were talking closely, their heads almost touching, their conversation appearing intimate, hushed. Ben occasionally stroked her arm, a gesture that sent a jolt of discomfort through me, and at one point, they briefly embraced. It looked like he was trying to comfort her, a sudden, inexplicable rush of concern for Clara, despite our recent distance. I pushed the unsettling scene out of my mind, telling myself it was nothing, just Ben being his usual over-friendly self, and entered the main office where Mom greeted me with a warm, enveloping hug that smelled of lavender and familiar comfort. "It's so good to see you, honey," she said, beaming, her eyes glistening. "My boy is home for good." "Is it true you're done with the Air Force?" she asked, pulling back slightly to look at me, a hopeful expectation in her voice. "Yep, no more deployments, Mom. I'm officially a civilian again," I confirmed, a sense of relief washing over me. "How are you holding up? Keeping everyone in line around here?" she teased, gesturing vaguely at the bustling office. I chuckled, the sound a little forced. "Your dad's still his own boss, and you're just like him," she added with a laugh, shaking her head fondly. Before I could respond, Dad appeared in the doorway, surprising me with a rare, almost gruff hug that was surprisingly warm. "Welcome home, son. Good to see you," he said, patting my back. "Good to be back, Dad," I replied sincerely, inhaling the familiar scent of sawdust and metal. "How was Germany?" he asked, stepping back. "Still exciting, or did it get old?" "It was good," I admitted, "but I missed home." "Missed you guys." Dad nodded, his expression softening. "So what's next? Any chance you'll re-enlist? They must have tried to keep a good man like you." "No regrets so far," I said thoughtfully, hedging. "But I need time to figure things out, explore my options." "You've got a job here whenever you want it, Alex, you know that," Dad said, his voice firm, offering the familiar safety net. "Don't pressure him, George," Mom chimed in, stepping closer. "He doesn't have to work here. It's his business too, not just Ben's." He has a right to choose. Dad countered, it's about family, Eleanor, ensuring the legacy continues. Ben can't do it all alone. This argument seemed to reflect an old, unresolved disagreement between them, a familiar dance of parental expectations. I hadn't told anyone my plans, so their discussion caught me completely off guard. It's fine, I said, stepping between them. We could talk about my plans later. I'm just happy to be home. Just then, Ben and Clara entered the office, their hushed conversation ceasing immediately. Good to see you, Alex, Ben said, giving me a quick, almost hesitant hug. His eyes darted to Clara's for a split second. Hey, big brother, I replied, trying to keep my tone light. Found yourself a nice girl yet? Still looking, huh? Ben gave an awkward, almost forced laugh, a faint blush creeping up his neck. He'd always struggled with girls, relying on me to help him meet their friends back in high school, a perpetual wingman. Since I started dating Clara, his personal life seemed to have fizzled out entirely. Unlike me, Ben was more reserved, more hesitant to try new things, content in his comfort zone. So, are you re-enlisting in the Air Force or coming back to work here? Ben asked, his voice a little too eager. Neither. I'm thinking of doing something else, I replied, enjoying his surprise. Ben nodded slowly, a thoughtful expression on his face, but Dad cut in, taking control. What's your plan for today, Alex? Nothing yet. Why don't you come with me? I could use an extra hand on a job, and we can catch up, talk things through. Sure, Dad. Sounds good. Give me 10 minutes to change and get ready, and I'll meet you at the loading dock. As Dad left, Ben followed him out, casting a quick glance back at Clara, leaving her sitting silently at her desk, her face averted. I realized she hadn't spoken to me all morning, not a single word, not since our tense argument last night. A cold sense of foreboding settled over me. I walked over to her desk. Are we going to talk, or are you just going to ignore me all day? I asked quietly, my voice low but firm. I don't think there's anything to say, she responded, her tone chillingly cold, her gaze fixed on her computer screen. There's plenty to say. Clara, you just don't want to talk about it, I said, keeping my voice low but firm, refusing to be dismissed. She shot me a sharp, defensive look. Not until you apologize, she snapped, her eyes flashing. I'll apologize if you explain why you've been so distant since I got back. I countered, my frustration boiling over. You've spoken more warmly to Ben this morning than you have to me since I walked through the door. Do you even want to stay married, Clara? What's going on? Clara's face hardened, a mask of defiance. Just because I don't jump into bed with you the minute you walk in doesn't mean I'm cheating, Alex. But you won't even show me any affection, any warmth. Why? Why are you holding back so much? I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. I told you. I need time to readjust to you being home, she snapped, her voice rising. Readjust to what, Clara? What exactly is going on that requires so much readjustment? I demanded, leaning over her desk, my patience wearing thin. Nothing, she said curtly, her voice sharp. George is waiting for you, and I have work to do. Please go. Fuming, my blood boiling with suspicion and hurt, I spun on my heel and left, finding Dad at the loading dock, already loading tools and equipment into the truck, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. You ready, Alex? He asked, noticing my agitated expression. Yeah, let's go, I replied, climbing into the passenger seat, trying to suppress the turmoil raging within me. At the job site, a gutted house undergoing a complete renovation, Dad and I got to work, him on the intricate light fixtures and me on the simpler outlets. The familiar rhythm of physical labor was a welcome, if temporary, distraction. After a couple of hours, as the midday sun climbed higher, we took a break, retreating to the relative coolness of the truck. Here, Take half my sandwich, Dad offered, handing it to me, his usual stoic self. Thanks, I said, taking a bite, the mundane act a stark contrast to the emotional weight pressing down on me. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The only sounds the distant chirping of birds and the rustle of leaves, until I finally spoke up, the question burning on my tongue. Mom mentioned this morning that you and she had talked about me not working here. I began, trying to sound casual, but failing. What's that about? She said it was for Ben's sake. Dad sighed, his eyes focused intently on the dashboard, avoiding my gaze. Your mom, she thinks Ben will do better, be more comfortable if you don't come back, he admitted, his voice low. She wants to give him space to succeed on his own terms. She thinks I'm holding him back. I asked, my voice rising in disbelief, a bitter laugh escaping me. After all this time, she still thinks I'm the problem? She thinks he's happy now, Alex. She believes this is his chance for a good job, a family, a stable life, a chance to truly shine, Dad said carefully, choosing his words like he was defusing a bomb. And me working here would ruin that. I asked bitterly, the full implication of Mom's favoritism hitting me like a physical blow. Dad shook his head slowly, a grim expression on his face. I don't agree with her, son. Not entirely, but she's convinced. She's seen a change in him. I clenched my fists, a sudden surge of anger replacing the earlier confusion. She's always favored Ben, Dad. I know that, but this is next level. What's really going on? What aren't you telling me? Dad hesitated, a long, agonizing pause, then cursed under his breath, a rare display of frustration. Crap. You don't know, do you? He muttered, running a hand through his hair. No. What? What in God's name are you talking about, Dad? I demanded, my voice shaking. He avoided my eyes, finally taking a deep breath and forcing out the words that shattered my world. Clara and Ben, they've been together, Alex, since you left for Germany. She told us you two broke up before you deployed. What? I barked, the word exploding from me, my mind reeling. That's a goddamn lie. We never broke up. What are you talking about, Dad? Dad exhaled heavily, the sound loud in the enclosed space of the truck. The coldness from Clara, her evasiveness, the disheveled bed, Ben's awkward hug. It all made sickening sense now, a puzzle falling into place with devastating clarity. Your mom and I, we didn't know at first. Your mom was upset, truly upset, but Clara told us you knew about it, that you were okay with it. She painted a picture of a mutual, amicable split. Eventually, your mom, wanting them to be happy, accepted it. Accepted it, so they tried to hide it from me. I spat, the betrayal a bitter taste in my mouth. Not exactly, Alex, Dad said, his voice laced with regret. Clara claimed you knew. We all thought you were okay with it, that you'd already moved on. Ben knew damn well I had no idea. I growled, my voice raw with rage. He knew I was coming home to her, and this morning he hugged me like nothing happened, like he was my loyal brother. I sat in stunned silence, the profound, agonizing betrayal from my wife and brother sinking into the deepest parts of my being, a corrosive acid eating away at my trust. Dad stayed quiet, the air in the truck heavy, thick with tension and unspoken guilt. Finally, I broke the suffocating silence, my voice barely a whisper, yet sharp as a razor. So, you and Mom knew Ben was with my wife while I was overseas, and you were okay with it? No, Alex, I wasn't okay with it, Dad said, his voice low, burdened. Your mom was upset at first too, truly upset and worried for you, but she eventually, reluctantly, accepted it after Clara's lies. They tried to keep it a secret from everyone else, but they believed you knew. Does everyone at the store know about this? Do they all know Ben is sleeping with my wife? I asked, my voice tight, laced with a dangerous edge. Yes, Dad admitted reluctantly, his gaze dropping to his hands. Most of them do. It's hard to keep secrets in a place like that. I clench my fists tighter, my nails digging into my palms. Unbelievable. And Ben acts like nothing happened, even hugging me this morning like he's the innocent victim. Dad sighed a long, weary sound. Clara told us you two broke up before you left for Germany. She painted you as the one who ended it, as if you'd abandoned her. She and Ben were already close, and we thought they got together out of loneliness, out of shared comfort. Close, I snapped, the word exploding from me. That means Ben's been after my wife for a while, Dad. Maybe even before I left. I can't believe he'd do this to me, his own twin brother. I think he's always been jealous of you, Alex, Dad said quietly, a new, unsettling revelation. Of your confidence, your travels, your choices. He's always wanted what you had. Jealous? So Mom wants me gone so Ben can have my wife, the business, and everything else? Should I hand him my house and truck too, Dad? Should I just pack up and disappear entirely? I spat bitterly, the sarcasm a thin veil over my raw pain. Your mom didn't know she'd been lied to, Alex, Dad said, trying to defend her. She thought you left Clara. She wanted them to be happy, to have a good life together, but it wasn't right, what they did. Ben is dead to me, Dad. I spat, my voice filled with venom of vow. Come on, Alex, he's still your brother, Dad said, attempting to mediate, to appeal to a bond one no longer felt. I know you're angry, but Clara's just as much to blame. More so, arguably. No, Ben's my brother, I countered fiercely. If anyone should have my back, if anyone should have been honest with me, it's him. And Clara, she acted like I owed her an apology last night. After all of this. I'm sorry, Alex, Dad said quietly, his voice heavy with empathy. This is a mess, a terrible, heartbreaking mess. I looked at him sharply, my eyes narrowed. What will you say to them when you get back to the store, Dad? What will you do? Nothing, Dad admitted, looking away. I gave them a hard time when I found out, believe me, but I truly thought you knew. They should have at least waited until you were divorced. Waited until you were legally separated. It's a disgrace. I took a deep, shuddering breath, trying to calm myself, the betrayal a searing, burning pain in my chest. Memories of my arrival home, of Clara's stiff hug and cold eyes, twisted in my mind, replaying with a horrifying new context. I finally replied, my voice hoarse. I need time to think about this, Dad, a lot of time, but I won't ruin my life over them. They're not worth it. Not anymore. Dad nodded, a silent understanding passing between us. Call me later, so I know you're okay, son. Sure, P. I said, the old nickname a small comfort. I headed back to the store, my steps deliberate, my mind a whirlwind of anger and pain. When I walked into the office, Mom looked up, her expression expectant. Done already, honey? She asked, a small smile on her face. No, Dad's still there. I said, my voice cold clipped. I came back to talk to my cheating wife and my traitor brother. Mom's face paled, the color draining from her cheeks, her eyes wide with shock. What are you talking about, Alex? You two aren't together anymore. You left her. No, Mom, that's the lie they told you, I said, my voice rising slightly, cutting through her denial. Clara and I never split. They've been lying to you and Dad for months. They've been making fools of you both. I turned my gaze, cold and hard, to Clara, who sat frozen at her desk. How could you do this to me, Clara? With my own brother? How could you? Clara said nothing, her eyes wide with fear and shame, before she scrambled from her chair and ran out of the office, disappearing down the hallway. I looked back at Mom, whose face was etched with horror. So, is this what you wanted, Mom? To get rid of me so Ben can have it all? My wife, my business, my life. I didn't know, Alex. I swear I didn't know, Mom said weakly, her voice trembling, tears welling in her eyes. I thought you and Clara broke up. She told me she swore it. You could have asked me, Mom, when I called from Germany. You could have just asked. But you stayed quiet, protecting them, believing their lies. Well, now you know you can't trust them. Not truly. I said bitterly, my heart aching with a fresh wound, before turning and walking out, leaving her stunned and reeling. As I exited the office and stepped into the main store area, Ben approached me, his face a mixture of concern and defiance. "Step back, Ben. Don't make this worse for yourself," I warned, my voice low and dangerous. A simmering threat. "You need to leave, Alex. This isn't your place anymore," Ben said defiantly, a newfound arrogance in his posture, a challenge in his eyes. He actually tried to block my path. That was it. I snapped. I confronted Ben, my control finally breaking, and in the white-hot heat of the moment, a vicious scuffle broke out. My fist connected squarely with his nose, a satisfying crunch echoing in the sudden silence of the store. He reeled back, stumbling, then collapsed to the ground, clutching his face, blood gushing from his nostrils. "You're dead to me, Ben," I spat, looking down at his pathetic form, my voice devoid of emotion. "Don't call me. Don't come near me. Don't ever try to speak to me again. And Clara better have all her stuff out of my house by tonight, or I'll throw it on the lawn for everyone to see." I stepped over him, my jaw clenched, left the stunned employees and my horrified parents behind, exited the store, and drove off, leaving the wreckage of my past behind me. It's been 3 months since I learned about Clara and Ben. The immediate aftermath was a blur of anger, pain, and cold, calculated decisions. She moved in with him almost immediately, her haste a confirmation of her guilt. I sold the house, our marital home. It held too many painful memories, too many ghosts of betrayed trust. The process was surprisingly quick, an act of emotional purging. After paying off the mortgage, I rented a modern, minimalist apartment near the Southern Bay Airport and secured a challenging position with a major aviation support firm. The work was demanding, requiring intense focus and long hours, but my fighter avionics experience had prepared me well, and I finally felt like I was making tangible progress, rebuilding my life piece by piece. Mom and Dad, after several emotional conversations, visited once I had settled in, their presence a testament to our enduring bond. While Mom and I slowly, cautiously made peace, she had significantly reduced Claire's role in the family business, transitioning her responsibilities to other staff members, a quiet vindication. On a Friday night, seeking a change of pace, some coworkers invited me out for dinner and drinks in South City, and I gladly joined, eager for new faces and light-hearted conversation. After a surprisingly good Italian dinner, we headed to a lively bar, the music pumping, the atmosphere buzzing. On my way back from the restroom, my mind still half on the conversation at the table, I accidentally bumped into someone, causing them to stumble slightly. "Sorry about that," I said immediately, stepping back, ready to offer assistance. "No problem at all," the woman replied, turning toward me with a polite smile. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. "Chloe, wow, it's been years." Her face was instantly recognizable, though more mature, more radiant. "Alex," she exclaimed, her face lighting up with genuine surprise and delight as she gave me a brief, warm hug. Chloe had been my first love, my high school sweetheart, and, ironically, the first girl Ben had ever tried to steal from me back in our younger, more naive days. "You look amazing. Absolutely stunning," I said, still surprised, my eyes taking in her elegant style. "Do you live nearby? Is this your stomping ground?" "I'm in Vista Hills, near the airport, actually." "What about you, Alex?" she asked with a curious smile, her eyes sparkling. "I'm here in South City now. I work in avionics, still playing with planes, just in a different capacity. I replied, a sense of pride in my new career. What about you? I run a travel agency near the airport, Chloe replied proudly, her smile widening. We spent a few moments catching up, a whirlwind of condensed years. She mentioned hearing that I'd gotten married, and I admitted with a wry, self-deprecating smile that I was now separated in the midst of a divorce. How about you? I asked, grinning, trying to lighten the mood. There's no way a beautiful woman like you is single. Actually, I am, Chloe said, her admission catching me completely off guard. Old memories and long-buried feelings, dormant for years, began to stir, a subtle flutter in my chest. You're here with friends, right? I asked, glancing around the crowded room, hoping she wasn't alone. Yes, she said, gesturing to a table across the room. What about you? My coworkers, I replied, then gestured toward my table. Want to merge our tables? Join us. Sure, Alex, let's do it, Chloe said, grinning, her enthusiasm infectious. We returned to our respective groups. My team, Liam, Noah, Ethan, and Caleb, was instantly eager when I mentioned the prospect of meeting new women. Let's do this, boss, Liam said, already eyeing Chloe's table, a playful glint in his eye. As we started to move towards Chloe's group, I made it explicitly clear, Chloe's the blonde with the bob. She's mine. You guys pick from the other two. Hands off, seriously. Deal, Liam said, laughing, understanding the unspoken history. We grabbed chairs and moved closer to the women, pulling our tables together to form one large, boisterous group. Hey, Chloe, I said, smiling, a genuine warmth spreading through me as we settled in. Alux, help me bring the tables together. Then we can do introductions, she said, her smile sparking a renewed sense of excitement and possibility within me. As we finally joined the tables, Chloe introduced everyone. I'm Chloe, and these are Hannah and Sarah, my best friends. Malux. These are Noah, Liam, Ethan, and our boss, Caleb, I said, gesturing to each in turn. So, how do you two know Alex? Hannah asked Chloe, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. Oh, he was my first crush. We were high school sweethearts. Chloe replied with a dramatic sigh and a playful roll of her eyes. Hannah and Sarah sighed in unison, clearly enjoying the revelation. So, you're not married, Alex? Sarah asked with a teasing smile, clearly already plotting. No, and don't even think about matchmaking us, ladies, Chloe said with a grin, though her eyes met mine with a hint of something more. Looks like you messed up, bro, Noah joked, smirking at me. Yeah, I did, I admitted openly, my gaze lingering on Chloe. I turned to her, and she leaned in, lowering her voice. Are you just saying that? Or did you finally realize I was right about Ben? Lowering my voice in return, my confession tinged with regret, I said, I figured it out recently. Very recently. Ben was absolutely the reason my marriage fell apart, among other things. I regret not believing you back then, Chloe. I really do. Chloe smiled slightly, a gentle, knowing look. Well, Alex, you can always make it up to me. I really want to, I said sincerely, my heart pounding a little faster. She gave me a quick, light kiss on the cheek, a chaste but meaningful gesture that drew amused chuckles from the table. Whoa, Chloe, what did Alex say to earn that so fast? Hannah asked, clearly amused, nudging her friend. I don't kiss and tell, Chloe replied, feigning secrecy, but Alex has always been the nicest guy I've ever met. And the sweetest. Really? Was he your first too, Chloe? Sarah pressed, grinning impishly. Sarah, that's a bit personal, Chloe said, laughing, a blush rising on her cheeks. What about you, Alex? Was Chloe your first? Sarah pressed further, nudging me playfully. Yes, and the best, I said confidently, holding Chloe's gaze, earning cheers and backslaps from the guys. Is it getting warm in here? Or is it just me? Hannah teased, fanning herself dramatically. Okay, enough about us, Chloe said, clearly a little flustered but pleased, gracefully redirecting the conversation. If you guys are single, these ladies need some entertainment, a little flirting. That would be Noah and Liam. Good luck, guys, Caleb said with a hearty laugh, already sensing the new dynamics. The next hour or two flew by as we all relaxed, shared stories, and enjoyed ourselves immensely. Noah and Liam seemed to really hit it off with Hannah and Sarah, their laughter echoing through the bar. And even Caleb and Ethan, usually more reserved, were having a genuinely good time. As for me, I couldn't get enough of Chloe. She was just as captivating, witty, and beautiful as I remembered, and it felt so natural, so right being around her again. It was as if no time had passed at all. At some point, I excused myself to use the restroom. When I came out, I noticed Chloe walking toward the same hallway. She smiled warmly when she saw me and leaned casually against the wall next to me after she exited her stall. It's so good to see you again, Alex. I mean it, she said softly, her eyes warm and earnest, her gaze locking onto mine. Same here, Chloe. More than you know, I replied, meeting her gaze, a deep sense of contentment washing over me. I'd forgotten how much I enjoy spending time with you. Just being with you. It feels like coming home. She smiled faintly, a gentle, knowing curve of her lips. I know. Maybe it's like they say about your first true love. You form a bond that stays with you for life, no matter what. Maybe, I said, my voice lowering, my hand reaching out to gently touch her arm. But I'd really like to put that theory to the test. Properly this time. Damn it. Alex, you're really smooth, Chloe said with a mischievous smile, a playful glint in her eyes. You could start by giving me your number and taking me out to dinner. A proper date. What if I want to start by kissing you first? I asked, leaning in slightly, my eyes on her lips. Chloe giggled softly, a sound that sent a thrill through me, and gave me a playful look, her eyes shining. Okay, Alex, we can start with that. I leaned in and kissed her softly, gently. At first, it was tentative, a rediscovery, but then it felt even better than I remembered, a forgotten melody suddenly brought back to life. Chloe's hand moved to my face, her thumb caressing my cheek, while her other arm wrapped gently around my back, pulling me closer. I deepened the kiss, letting the moment linger, savoring the warmth and softness of her lips, the familiar scent of her hair. It felt like time had stopped, the noisy bar fading into a distant hum. When we finally broke the kiss, a little breathless, Chloe looked up at me, her cheeks slightly flushed, her eyes wide. Wow, she whispered, her voice a little husky. That was really good. More than good. You've still got it, Chloe, I said, grinning, my heart soaring. She laughed softly, still catching her breath, her chest rising and falling. Pretty sure that's all you, Alex, but we should probably get back to the table before I lose control of myself. Do we have to? I teased, a newfound boldness making me reckless. If it were up to me, Alex, I'd take you home right now, she admitted, her voice low and playful. Easy, Tiger, Chloe said with a cheeky laugh, pulling back slightly. You can take me out to dinner first. I'm not that kind of girl, not anymore. I chuckled, understanding. Fair enough. But can I get one more kiss before the night's over? A promise for next time? She smiled, her eyes twinkling, her hand still resting on my chest. Yes, you can. I promise. We went back to join the others, and I couldn't stop humming, replaying that electrifying kiss with Chloe in my mind, a constant, joyful loop. We chatted for another hour before the music shifted, and Caleb suggested we hit the dance floor. We all paired off, finding our rhythm. Noah danced enthusiastically with Hannah, Liam awkwardly but sweetly with Sarah, and Caleb, ever the responsible one, had already left to go home to his wife and kids. Ethan followed soon after, leaving just the three couples, a small island of burgeoning romance in the swirling crowd. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, I was slow dancing with Chloe, her head resting comfortably on my shoulder, when she said, "Alex, the girls and I are heading home after this song. You'd better call me, you hear? That's one thing you'll never have to worry about, Chloe." I replied with a smile, tightening my hold on her. "I can't wait to see you again, and you haven't even left yet." Chloe rested her head on my chest, and we danced slowly, swaying to the music until the song finally faded out. Walking back to the table, we found Noah and Hannah already seated, their hands clasped, with Liam and Sarah close behind, still giggling. The night felt surreal, almost too perfect. Three couples forming in one night. Was that even possible? It felt like a movie. Eventually, we all went outside to wait for a cab, each couple lost in their own whispered conversations, a bubble of intimacy around us. The first cab pulled up for the girls. Chloe gave me a quick, lingering kiss, her lips soft against mine, and reminded me, "Call me Alex," before hopping into the car with Hannah and Sarah, waving goodbye. Left standing on the sidewalk with Noah and Liam, Noah turned to me, his face beaming. "Alex, I owe you for this, man. Hannah is amazing. We already have another date set up for Saturday." Liam added, a rare flush on his cheeks. "Same here, dude. Sarah actually asked me out. I was too nervous in case she said no, but she did." "Glad I could help, guys," I said, a genuine smile spreading across my face. Tonight was amazing, better than I ever hoped. The next morning, I woke up feeling slightly groggy, but not too bad. Chloe was on my mind from the moment I opened my eyes. Her smile, her laugh, the feel of her lips. After showering and getting dressed, feeling a renewed sense of purpose, I headed to a cozy coffee shop near my apartment for some much-needed coffee and waffles. As I sat there, savoring the rich aroma and planning my next move with Chloe, my phone rang. I glanced at the unknown number, hesitant. "Hello." I answered. "Hey, Alex." Chloe's familiar, warm voice came through the line, instantly brightening my morning. "I just realized I never gave you my number last night. I just got yours from Hannah. So save mine, okay?" "Of course. I'll save it," I said quickly, a wide grin spreading across my face. "Honestly, I was just thinking about you." "No, wait, that's a lie. I've been thinking about you all morning since the minute I woke up." Chloe laughed warmly, a delightful sound that filled me with joy. "Well, now I'm thinking about you too." "Really, Alex, are you in love with me already?" she teased, her voice laced with amusement. "If we were in Ravenwood in the 17th century, I'd accuse you of being a witch for putting a love spell on me." I teased back, enjoying our easy banter. "Oh my goodness," she giggled, clearly charmed. "Did you rehearse that line, Alex? Did you like it?" I asked, grinning, anticipating her response. "Yeah, I liked it," she admitted, her voice soft. "Well," I said playfully, flipping the script, "if I'm under your spell, does that mean you can make me do whatever you want?" "Absolutely," Chloe replied, a confident note in her voice. "Then I order you to pick me up and take me to lunch today," I said, seizing the opportunity. "Deal," she said without hesitation, her enthusiasm infectious. "Send me your address, and I'll be there in an hour or so." "I will. And Chloe, seriously, thank you for last night. For everything. I haven't felt this happy, this light in a long, long time." "I feel the same way, Alex," she said sincerely, her voice softening. "It's like I've hit a reset button on my life. A new place, a new job, new friends, and hopefully someone special to share it all with." Chloe laughed lightly, a hint of mischief returning to her voice. "If I find out who she is, I'll scratch her eyes out. What? I chuckled, caught off guard by her sudden possessiveness. Well, we're not rookies at this. Alex, are we? She said, her tone softening again, becoming more serious. But I hope we can make it special this time. Truly special. I hope so too, Chloe. More than anything. I agreed, my heart swelling. Okay, my waffles are getting cold. Don't forget to send me your address. I'll send it now. See you soon, Alex. Bye. Bye, Chloe, I said, ending the call with a smile that refused to leave my face. When I got to Chloe's house, navigating the busy neighborhood, finding a parking spot seemed impossible. Luckily, I saw her coming out of the building, her blonde hair catching the sunlight, so I honked and waved. She hopped in my freshly cleaned pickup. I'd spent 2 hours that morning making it spotless for her, detailing every inch, a small act of devotion. So where are you taking me for lunch, Alex? She asked, leaning over to kiss my cheek, her touch sending shivers down my spine. How about Seabreeze Point? We can grab some food on the way and sit by the ocean. It's a bit of a hike to get to the best view, though. Sounds perfect, Chloe said, her face lighting up with genuine delight. I love the ocean. As we walked down the winding path toward the observation deck, the scent of salt and eucalyptus filling the air, I instinctively held Chloe's hand. She glanced up at me with a soft smile, her fingers intertwining with mine, a comfortable intimacy already forming. When we reached the end of the secluded trail, a breathtaking panoramic view of the Pacific Ocean stretching out endlessly before us, we sat on the soft grass, the gentle roar of the waves a soothing backdrop. After a moment of quiet, simply taking in the beauty, I opened my backpack and pulled out the gourmet sandwiches we'd picked up earlier. I thought you'd take me to a nice restaurant or cafe, Mr. Fancy Pants, Chloe said with a playful grin, nudging me. But this is so much better, isn't it? More us. I'm glad you think so, I replied, my gaze lingering on her. I wanted it to be something memorable, something different. Eating out doesn't always feel special. Sometimes it's just noisy. Chloe leaned her head on my shoulder, her voice softening, a vulnerability I hadn't heard before. You're making me nervous, Alex. What do you mean, nervous? I asked, looking down at her, concerned. Well, she began, her voice a little hesitant. Just yesterday, I had no idea where you were or what you were doing. Now it's hard to imagine not being with you. This is happening so fast, and I don't want to get hurt again, Alex. I hesitated, understanding the weight of her words, remembering her previous marriage. I'm sorry for how things ended between us back then, Chloe. I should have believed you about Ben. I truly regret that. No, that's not it. She cut me off, shaking her head gently against my shoulder. I was hurt by my marriage. Deeply hurt. I only started truly moving on a few months ago, and now I'm here with you. And with you? Alex, I can't do casual. It's all or nothing, and that scares me more than anything. What scares you, Chloe? I asked gently, my hand coming up to cup her cheek. Falling in love again, or remembering how much it hurts when love goes wrong? Both, Chloe said, her voice trembling slightly. Doesn't it scare you, knowing what it's like when love hurts so much? I know the feeling, Chloe, believe me, I admitted, thinking of Clara, the raw wound still fresh. But I'm not going to let it stop me. My relationship with my ex-wife doesn't define us. You're nothing like her. What we have, what we could have is different. It's special. Chloe looked at me, her expression still cautious, a lingering shadow in her eyes. What about your ex? Are you going to say I remind you of her, or that I'm not what you expect? No, not at all, I said firmly, shaking my head. If anything, I always wish you were more like you, or at least the version of you I remembered from high school. More open, more adventurous, more real. Her brow furrowed slightly, a hint of doubt. But what if I'm not what you remember? What if I turn out to be more like her than you'd like? Or what if I'm just not enough? I took a deep breath, marshaling my thoughts. Well, Chloe, I don't know your ex, not truly, but I do know myself. And in my head, I'm still that awkward high school kid who had a massive crush on you. Sure, I got a few more scars and stories now, some good, some bad, some truly ugly, but I'm still me deep down. And I want to live a wonderful, full life, and I want to share it with someone I love, someone who makes me feel this way. Someone like you. Chloe's expression softened, the doubt receding, replaced by a quiet vulnerability. Okay, she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. But Alex, if you hurt me again, there won't be a third chance. I mean it. I held her gaze, my voice steady, my promise absolute. I won't need a third chance, Chloe. I promise you that. Chloe lifted her head, her eyes shining with unshed tears, and we shared a gentle, tender kiss, a silent affirmation of our renewed connection. After lunch, we went back to her apartment to hang out, or more accurately, make out like teenagers. I didn't push for more. Chloe had already said she was nervous about how fast things were moving, about getting hurt again, so I decided to let her set the pace, to show her I respected her boundaries and her fears. I wanted her to feel safe with me. That Saturday night, Chloe had originally planned to see a movie with Hannah. It effortlessly turned into a double date with Chloe and me, plus Hannah and Noah, who were clearly hitting it off. I didn't stay over that night. Instead, I had dinner with my parents on Sunday, making sure Ben and Clara wouldn't be there, navigating the tricky family dynamics. Over the following week, I took Chloe out to dinner twice, enjoying the easy flow of our conversations, the growing comfort of our company. On Friday night, we all went out again. 3 couples this time, as Liam and Sarah had also progressed to dating. Around 10 p.m., Chloe leaned over to me at the table, her eyes sparkling with an unspoken invitation. Alex, can you take me home? She asked, her voice soft, barely a whisper. Are you okay? Is something wrong? I asked, concerned, my gaze searching hers. No, nothing's wrong, Alex, just the opposite. I want you to take me home, she said softly, her meaning crystal clear. I looked into her eyes, my eyebrows raised in a silent question. Are you sure, Chloe? I asked, giving her an out if she needed one. Yes, I'm sure, she confirmed, her hand lightly touching my arm. Chloe kissed me softly on the lips, a promise in the touch. We stood, and I announced to the group, we're heading out, guys. Good night. They seemed to understand immediately, a knowing look on their faces, and didn't object. When we got back to her place, she led me directly into the living room, the subtle scent of her perfume filling the air. Have a seat on the couch, Alex. I'll be right out, she said, her voice a little breathless. Do you want something to drink, Chloe? I offered, my own heart thumping a little faster. No, I'm fine. Help yourself if you want, she replied from the bedroom. I considered it, a nightcap, but decided against more whiskey, opting for a glass of water instead. I was just getting comfortable on the couch, the quiet anticipation almost unbearable, when Chloe came out of her bedroom. She was wearing something special, a silky negligee that clung to her curves and a soft, inviting smile. She reached out her hand and invited me to join her. That night, under the soft glow of the bedside lamp, we made love, a beautiful, passionate culmination of weeks of unspoken desire and rekindled affection. Afterward, as we lay intertwined, Chloe looked into my eyes, her face peaceful. I can't believe I'm already so in love with you, Alex. You know that, right? She asked, her voice soft with emotion. I love you too, Chloe. I really do, I replied, holding her close, feeling like I'd finally found where I belonged. In the weeks that followed, Chloe and I were inseparable, a constant presence in each other's lives. Outside of work, I often spent nights at her apartment, since it was closer to our jobs, a practical decision that quickly became a comforting routine. I even started keeping work clothes and a toothbrush at her place for convenience, a sign of our deepening connection. It was incredible how quickly we fell into a rhythm, a shared cadence of life, as though we were finally finding our missing halves perfectly complementary. In the year we dated in high school, we knew each other well, a surface level understanding. But now, with more life experience, more scars, more wisdom, we were discovering ourselves and each other on a much deeper, more profound level. Every conversation, every shared silence felt meaningful. It was Tuesday night. We had just returned to Chloe's apartment after a quiet dinner. I was sitting on the couch, my heart full, waiting for her to come back from getting ready for bed. I couldn't stop thinking about how happy I felt just being around her, how easy and natural everything was. Chloe reappeared wearing an oversized t-shirt that looked like a dress on her petite frame and snuggled up to me on the couch, resting her head on my chest. "Alex, I've been thinking," she said, her voice muffled against my shirt. "You don't have to if you don't want to, Chloe." I teased gently, stroking her hair. Chloe smiled but pressed forward, her tone becoming serious. "Shouldn't we talk about what happened in our marriages? Really talk about them, just so we can understand how we got here, how we both ended up in bad places. To what end exactly?" I asked, a little hesitant to revisit old wounds. "To figure out what went wrong, Alex." "Yeah, and maybe to make sure we don't repeat the same mistakes, that we learn from them," she replied thoughtfully, lifting her head to look at me. "All right, that makes sense. Do you want to go first, or should I?" I asked. "You go ahead," Chloe said with a small smile, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "But I have a feeling your story might be longer than mine." "Fair enough," I chuckled. "Where should I start? From the beginning. How about how you met her and what she was like? Not how you see her now, but back then, when you first fell for her," Chloe suggested, her eyes encouraging. "Well," I began, taking a deep breath, the memories surfacing. "We met at a bar near Crestview University. I was in college, just starting my engineering courses, and she was studying business there too. We were both 21, fresh out of our small towns. She seemed nice enough, attractive, but wasn't very talkative at first, almost shy. I actually had to work really hard to get her to open up, to laugh, to have a few drinks. Honestly, I don't remember thinking she was the one or anything dramatic like that. We just gradually started dating, a slow burn that intensified with proximity. I joined the Air Force after my internship, chasing a different path. I proposed 6 months later, probably swept up in the emotion of impending deployment, and we got married another 6 months after that. Being in the service wasn't easy on our relationship, especially since she stayed behind in Willow Creek. She had a good job in the city and lived in the house we just bought, a small 3-bedroom that felt huge when it was just me. We ended up spending more time apart than together, much more. The military lifestyle is hard on civilian partners. What was she like as a person then? Chloe asked, truly curious. And what were you two like as a couple? What was the dynamic? She was incredibly determined, sometimes almost too stubborn for her own good. She wasn't great at expressing her feelings, often bottled them up, even with me, her husband. It was like pulling teeth sometimes to get her to open up emotionally. But when she was in a good mood, she could be incredibly warm, cheerful, and engaging. I felt like it was my unspoken responsibility to get her into the right mood, to always make her happy, and sometimes I just couldn't focus on it, especially when I was overseas under pressure. Ironically, the distance sometimes helped because we missed each other so intensely, and the reunions were passionate. When I came home, things would be good for about a month, a honeymoon period, but then the old patterns would return. She felt incredibly lonely when I wasn't around, so I convinced my parents to hire her at the family business. That way, she'd have their support, a routine, and it was easier for her to manage things. Plus, we really needed two incomes for the mortgage, so her staying abroad with me was an option, not financially. Maybe renting out the house and traveling together could have been a solution, but we never considered it, too tied to the idea of a stable home. When did she start working for your parents? Chloe asked, a subtle shift in her posture, a keen interest in her eyes. During my third year in the Air Force, about a year and a half after we got married, I explained, calculating the timeline. Were you around much after that? Is that when things really started going wrong between you two? Chloe pressed, her insights surprisingly sharp. Yeah, I wasn't home much at all after that. I was in Germany for most of my third year and the last 6 months of my final year. The 6 months in between those deployments. I was stationed at Griffin Air Base with a test squadron and only came home on weekends, which quickly became stressful. It was a constant back and forth. Is that when she started getting close to Ben? Chloe asked cautiously, her voice carefully neutral. Yes, I think so. I admitted, a bitter truth settling in. They always got along fine. I never thought anything of it. But I didn't suspect anything truly intimate while I was stationed at Griffin. Looking back now, with hindsight, I think her relationship with Ben may have contributed significantly to our problems, created a rift that became impossible to bridge. Do you think she thought she could just trade you for someone who'd be around more? Chloe asked, her voice careful, almost analytical. She knew my time in the Air Force was ending, and I never planned to re-enlist, but she started dating Ben during my last 6 months overseas when she knew I was coming home soon. Maybe she just fell in love with him, genuinely. He can be quite persuasive, can't he? Though that didn't work on you, did it? I said, turning the question back to her, my eyes narrowing slightly, remembering the high school drama. No, Chloe said firmly, shaking her head. I wouldn't betray you, Alex, even when I was away. And as for Ben, he did try to make a move on me once, back in high school, at a party when you were away visiting relatives. But I shut it down hard. I was disgusted, but I didn't confront him publicly because I didn't want to escalate things, didn't want to cause drama for you. Why not? He's your brother. What happened? I pressed, a new layer of betrayal opening up. He was drunk, and at first, I thought he was just being an idiot, just being Ben. But then things got out of hand. He wouldn't leave me alone. Chloe's expression hardened, a deep sadness in her eyes. You said he kept groping you. What exactly did he do, Chloe? Tell me. He'd come up behind me, put his hands on my chest, and wrap his arms around me so I couldn't get away, even when I yelled at him to stop and squirmed. People just thought we were messing around, flirting. Everyone else was partying, so they didn't think it was serious, or they ignored it. I was furious, Alex, but helpless. You weren't there, because he wouldn't have dared try that if you were around. I was mad at myself, too, for not leaving sooner, for not just walking out, but I didn't want him ruining my night, not after you'd left. I'm so sorry I wasn't there, Chloe, I said softly, reaching for her hand, my heart aching with retrospective anger. What happened next? Did he stop? He kept it up, kept cornering me. Then he finally cornered me in the hallway as I came out of the bathroom and actually tried to push me into a bedroom, pulling me. Well, you know the rest of that night. You showed up just as he was getting more aggressive. I had walked in on Ben trying to force Chloe into a bedroom, and I'd lost my temper, punching him and dragging Chloe away. I've never felt so powerless, Alex, so vulnerable, and no one tried to help me. Maybe they thought I was okay with it, because they'd seen us hanging out together before, like I was just fooling around with him while you were away, enjoying the attention. It was humiliating. Well, Chloe said, her voice hardening, a steely resolve returning. I'm glad you stood up for yourself. And I hope his balls are still sore from that kick you gave him that night. Her bluntness caught me completely off guard, and I laughed despite myself, a surprised, choked sound. I don't think he'll ever forget that, or any of it, I said, my voice darkening again. Chloe sighed and rested her head on my shoulder, finding comfort in my embrace. So what about your story, Alex? I asked after a moment of silence, wanting to share the burden. Chloe hesitated, then nodded, taking a deep breath. All right, she said softly. I met my ex, David, when we were sophomores in college. We met through mutual friends, and he seemed sweet enough. We started dating very casually at first, and then got engaged about a year after graduating. We married 2 years later. You dated for years before getting engaged, and then it took even longer to get married, I said, puzzled by the slow progression. Why did it take so long for you two to connect or to commit? I'm not sure, Alex, Chloe admitted, a distant look in her eyes. Looking back, maybe we both knew deep down it wasn't truly meant to be. We were probably just comfortable with what we had at the time, settling for a familiar warmth instead of chasing a real spark. There was no real passion, just companionship. But you loved him, didn't you? At some point, I asked gently, wanting to understand. Yes, Chloe said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. At first, I thought I did. But like your relationship, Alex, we just drifted apart as time went on, the distance growing between us even when we were in the same room. I think we ended up getting married to try to save what we had, to force a commitment that wasn't truly there. There was also a lot of pressure from family and friends, everyone expecting us to tie the knot after so long. The marriage only lasted about 6 months before everything fell apart. What went wrong? Did you decide to end it? I asked, my grip tightening on her hand. No. David lost his job, his dream job, and then hated the new one he found. He started drinking more, much more than before, and eventually he became violent, Chloe admitted, her voice dropping, a tremor running through her. Violent? Did he touch you, Chloe? Did he hurt you? I asked, my voice tight with concern, my stomach clenching. At first it was just verbal abuse, cutting remarks, emotional manipulation, but then he started pushing me, shoving me, kicking me during arguments. That's when I knew, truly knew, I had to leave, that it wasn't safe, she said, tears welling in her eyes. And I prompted gently, wanting her to finish, to purge the memory. And one night, after he came home drunk and angry from losing a big client, he punched me during an argument. I don't even remember what it was about, just that he seemed to see me as the target for all his frustrations, his failures. I told him to sleep on the couch that night, the fear overriding everything else, but the next morning he started in on me again, yelling, and struck me again. That was the last straw, Alex. I walked out right then and there. Did you go to the police, Chloe? I asked, my fist clenching instinctively, a surge of protective fury rising within me. Men like that usually keep doing it. There needs to be a record so future women are warned. Yes, I went to the police immediately. I got a restraining order, and he was forced to move out of the apartment. I haven't seen him since that day, thank God, Chloe said, her voice firm despite the tears. I'm so incredibly sorry you went through that, Chloe, I said sincerely, pulling her closer, wishing I could have protected her. With both David and Ben, I hope the other guys you dated treated you better, like you deserved. You're my only real boyfriend, Alex, since high school. And so far, you've been good to me, Chloe replied with a soft smile, looking up at me. Wait, you didn't date anyone else in college after you met David? There must have been plenty of guys chasing after you, a beautiful girl like you, I said, surprised. There were definitely, she laughed, a genuine, joyful sound. But honestly, I was still thinking about you back then, even if it was just a faint memory. I didn't want to date anyone then, so I focused on my studies and spent a lot of time with my girlfriends. They eventually convinced me to start dating the next year, but I got teased a lot for being so serious about my studies, Chloe said, laughing again. Eleanor's mother was a favorite, always trying to set me up, she added playfully. I laughed, a full, hearty laugh, and Chloe playfully smacked me with a pillow. Tell me, Alex, she said, her tone serious again, her eyes searching mine. Do you think you'll ever forgive Ben for what happened? He is your twin brother. After all, part of your blood. No, I said firmly, my voice resolute, leaving no room for doubt. I don't think I ever will. Even putting aside what he did with Clara, or what he tried to do to you, it's about what he did to me. He betrayed my trust, my loyalty, everything I thought our brotherly bond meant. I've thought about it a lot since Clara left, since all the lies came out. Even though he's my twin, we were never truly good friends. Maybe if we were identical twins, it would be different, but we weren't alike at all, emotionally or personally. He was always around, physically present, but I never enjoyed being alone with him. We were only together because of other people, my friends, my girlfriends. Looking back, I realize I never really liked him as a person. If he weren't my brother, we wouldn't have been friends, not for a minute. What's that saying, Alex? You can choose your friends, but not your family. Chloe asked gently, her hand rubbing my arm soothingly. Yeah, but it's tough when your family insists on being part of your friend group, on your life being intertwined. Mom and Dad always expected me to take him everywhere, like he'd always have my back, like he was my shadow. I don't know why he didn't just do his own thing, or make his own friends, build his own life. That's one significant reason I joined the Air Force, to finally get some space from him, some distance to figure out who I was without him defining me. Well, Alex, now you're finally rid of him, Chloe said kindly, a warm comfort in her voice. Let's go to bed. I need to snuggle for a while. Wait, I said, stopping her just as she started to move. You said we should talk about all this so we can learn from it. What exactly do we learn, Chloe? What's the big takeaway? Not to fall in love with crappy people, Chloe replied with a smirk, her eyes dancing. I laughed, a genuine, hearty sound. Yeah, I guess we learned to make better choices about the people we love, to be more discerning. That, and that you should never, ever settle for second best, Chloe said, her tone softening, her gaze unwavering. Agreed, I said, standing up and pulling her into a tight, warm hug. Now I'll take my first best girlfriend to bed. Chloe kissed me softly before leading me into the bedroom, where the promise of a peaceful night and a brighter future awaited. The following weeks went by much like the ones before, a harmonious blend of work, companionship, and deepening love, but now it felt hard to imagine what life had ever been like without Chloe. I felt so at peace, so completely content, as though this was what it truly meant to be happy and in love, a profound sense of belonging. Last weekend, Chloe joined me for lunch at my parents' house, a new tradition. Mom and Dad were thrilled to see her again, completely captivated by her charm, and visibly relieved to see me so genuinely happy after the painful split from Clara. By the end of the week, I had moved all my remaining things into Chloe's apartment, officially making it our shared home. Since we were already practically living together, keeping two separate places didn't make sense, financially or emotionally. It had been just under 6 months since I filed for divorce from Clara. Chloe's divorce had been finalized about 8 months after she filed, so hopefully I only had a few more months left before it was official, before I could truly close that chapter. Mom turned 50 on Thursday, a significant milestone, but she threw a big party Saturday evening at my parents' house, inviting everyone. Over 60 friends and family attended, making it impossible to avoid Ben and Clara without overtly upsetting Mom, which I didn't want to do on her special day. Skipping the party entirely would have allowed them to control my relationship with my parents, to isolate me. So Chloe and I decided to go, determined to face them head on, united. We arrived around 4 p.m. The house was already bustling, filled with laughter and conversation, and the party was set up in the spacious backyard under a large, festive gazebo, twinkling with fairy lights. As we made our way through the crowded living room, greeting various relatives and old family friends, Mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She stopped, beamed, and pulled us into a joyous, bone-crushing hug. "You two look like you belong in a daytime TV romance," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "Absolutely gorgeous, both of you. You look amazing too, Mom," I said, smiling genuinely, a warmth spreading through me. "Not a day over 40, honestly." "Stop it, Alex," she laughed, playfully swatting my arm. "Is this how you won Chloe over with all that charm?" Chloe chuckled softly, leaning into my side. "He's smooth, Eleanor definitely. But he's also incredibly genuine, which is what I love most. That's his dad in him. George was always a sweet talker, knew just what to say," Mom said, her eyes twinkling mischievously. "Happy birthday, Eleanor," Chloe said warmly, offering a sincere hug. "Happy birthday, Mom," I added, handing her our beautifully wrapped gift. "Hope this is a party you'll never forget." "Thank you, both of you," she said, hugging us again. Then her expression softened, a hint of concern entering her eyes. She hesitated, then added, almost whispering, "Alex, Ben, and Clara are here. Is that going to be a problem for you two?" "Not from us, Mom," I assured her, squeezing her hand, a calm resolve in my voice. "It's your night, so you enjoy it. We're here for you." Determined not to let them ruin the evening for my mother, or for us, we headed to the backyard where Dad greeted us with a hearty smile. "You both look amazing," he said, shaking my hand firmly and giving Chloe a warm kiss on the cheek. "Chloe, how my son convinced a lovely woman like you to fall for him is truly beyond me. He must have pulled out all the stops." Laughing, Chloe replied, "He's quite charming, George. Must take after you, smart and handsome." "You've done well for yourself, Alex," Dad said proudly, giving me a rare pat on the back. "Mom looks great for her big day," I said, steering the conversation back to the birthday girl. "She seems happy. She's been stressing for weeks about this party," Dad confided, shaking his head. "Hopefully, she can relax now and enjoy herself." "I hope so too," I agreed. Lowering his voice, Dad added, a familiar concern in his eyes, "Alex, your brother and Clara are here. Is that okay? Will there be trouble?" "As long as they stay away from us, Dad," I said calmly, meeting his gaze. "We're here for Mom, not for drama." "I'll make sure they do," Dad promised, a serious note in his voice. I already had a word with Ben. "Thanks, Dad," I said, feeling more at ease, knowing he had my back. We mingled with the crowd, mostly family and friends of my parents. Some I knew well, others just vaguely, but everyone seemed to recognize me. My height and broad build made me hard to miss in any crowd. Chloe, however, was undoubtedly the star of the evening, with guests constantly gushing over how stunning she looked, her radiant smile drawing everyone in. At one point, Chloe excused herself and went into the kitchen to help Mom bring out more food, ever thoughtful. A few minutes later, I noticed Clara following her into the kitchen, a predatory gleam in her eye. I smirked to myself. Clara has no clue who she's messing with if she's going after Chloe. My girl can handle herself. A few minutes later, Clara came out of the house, her face red, looking visibly upset and disheveled. She went straight to Ben, who was talking to a distant cousin, and I could see them arguing intensely, their whispers growing louder before Clara stormed off to sit far from him, by herself, fuming. Not long after, Chloe appeared, carrying a large tray of appetizers, alongside Mom and one of my aunts, a triumphant smile playing on her lips. She caught my eye, flashing a mischievous grin, a clear signal that something had happened. God, I love that woman. After setting the food down on the buffet table, Chloe joined me, looking smug and pleased with herself. She leaned in close, her eyes dancing. "You've been up to something, haven't you?" I teased quietly, a smile forming on my lips. "You have no idea, Alex," she replied with a conspiratorial grin. "But I'll fill you in later with all the juicy details." "Not even a hint?" I asked, leaning closer, eager to know. "Just enjoy watching Clara and Ben squirm all night," she said, laughing softly, a delightful, unburdened sound. I smiled and kissed her gently on the forehead, completely smitten. "The moment my divorce is final, Chloe, I'm marrying you. I swear it." She raised an eyebrow, a teasing smirk on her face. "You planning to ask me first, Alex?" "I will," I promised, my voice earnest, on one knee and everything. "I might even sing for you, if you're lucky." "Let's skip the singing, darling," she teased, laughing, "but I'm looking forward to the rest of it." For the rest of the night, Clara and Ben barely spoke to each other. When they did, Clara's scowl and Ben's defeated posture made it abundantly clear that things weren't going well between them, the tension palpable. Later, when I went inside to use the bathroom, I found Ben lingering awkwardly in the hallway, nursing a drink. The moment he saw me, he flinched, stepping aside, avoiding eye contact like a ghost. I gave him a quick, dismissive glance as I walked past, a silent declaration of his irrelevance. And that was the extent of our interaction. After the party, a night that felt like a true turning point, I drove Chloe back to our apartment. She was grinning the entire ride home, practically vibrating with suppressed laughter. As soon as we stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind us, I couldn't hold back my curiosity any longer. "All right, spill it. What did you say to Clara at the party? You made her furious." Chloe leaned against the kitchen counter, her arms crossed, a smug, satisfied smirk playing on her lips. "So, I went into the kitchen to help your mom with the food, but she quickly left for the bathroom, leaving me alone for a few moments. That's when Clara walked in, started loading a tray with almost aggressive movements. And with this incredibly condescending tone, she said, 'So you're Alex's new girlfriend?' 'I'm his wife, Clara, just so you know.'" "She really said that? To your face?" I asked, stunned by Clara's audacity. "Oh, absolutely, Alex," Chloe said with mock sweetness, mimicking Clara's tone perfectly. But I didn't let her rattle me, not for a second. I looked her dead in the eye, very calmly, and said, "Soon-to-be ex-wife, actually, Clara, and I'm not just Alex's new girlfriend, I'm Chloe, his first girlfriend, the first girl he ever truly loved, and soon-to-be his wife." I really emphasized that last part. I laughed out loud, picturing the scene, Clara's face surely falling. What did she say to that? She must have been speechless. She froze, totally caught off guard, like a deer in headlights, Chloe said, grinning triumphantly. Then she tried to recover, spitting out, "Alex already broke up with you once. What makes you think he won't do it again? He clearly leaves his women." So I shot back. Without missing a beat, "Alex didn't break up with me, Clara. I left him because he didn't believe me when I warned him your dear Ben was after me, manipulating everything, and was a truly awful person. And we both know Ben has a thing for taking everything Alex has, friends, girlfriends, even his wife." I made sure she understood the pattern. I stared at her, amazed, utterly captivated by her boldness. "You said all that?" To her face. "Oh, I wasn't done, Alex," Chloe replied, enjoying my shock. I added, very sweetly, "Ben knows how to get what he wants, but he didn't get me. I never stooped that low. You, on the other hand, better keep a very close eye on him, Clara." Guys like that don't handle rejection well, especially when they're drunk or angry. You might find yourself in my shoes or worse. I was speechless, utterly dumbfounded. No wonder she looked so upset, so completely humiliated when she came out of the kitchen. She literally didn't know what to say, Chloe said with a shrug, enjoying my reaction. She just stared at me for a few seconds, her mouth agape, then turned and walked out. A few minutes later, she and Ben were arguing, really going at it. Do you think she's realizing who Ben really is now? I asked, a flicker of hope that Clara might find some clarity. Chloe nodded thoughtfully. She's not dumb, Alex, just selfish and misguided. Judging by how they acted the rest of the night, how she avoided him, she's already regretting her choices, the web of lies she spun. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. That explains why she avoided him all night. You were right, Chloe. All along, Ben was probably manipulating her the whole time, preying on her loneliness when I was away. Chloe rested her head on my chest, her hand stroking my arm. Ben was different when you weren't around, Alex. Your presence, your strong personality, kept him in check, forced him to conform. Without you, his true, resentful nature came out unchecked. I frowned, a deep, unsettling thought. Why didn't anyone tell me this before? Why didn't anyone tell me that my twin brother is a manipulative idiot who resents me and tries to steal everything I have? Chloe tilted her head, her gaze soft. He was always around, Alex, so no one really could without seeming like they were attacking you, creating family drama. And honestly, I was scared you wouldn't believe me, just like back in high school. Until that party, when the truth came out, I was right, you didn't. No one wanted to be the bearer of bad news about your brother. Yeah, I admitted, regret creeping into my voice a heavy weight. I can't believe I fell for his lies for so long. I was so gullible, so blind. You're not gullible, Alex. You're a good man who sees the best in people, even when they don't deserve it, Chloe said firmly, her voice unwavering. Don't let him change that about you. I pulled her close, holding her tightly, feeling incredibly lucky to have her. Thank you, I murmured, kissing the top of her head. She smiled, kissing my neck softly. Story's over, Alex. Let's go to bed. Wait, I said, stopping her sudden intuition. What else are you hiding, Chloe? There's something, isn't there? You have that mischievous look. Chloe smirked, her eyes twinkling. Want to guess, big guy? I grinned, playing along. That I'm the best lover you've ever had, obviously. But no, she teased, laughing a delightful sound. That you can't wait to marry me. I joked, knowing it was true. Yes, but still not it. That's a given. I studied her face, narrowing my eyes, trying to solve the puzzle. You're pregnant, aren't you? Her face lit up, a radiant, joyful glow spreading across it. Yes, she whispered, a triumphant smile. I kissed her slowly, savoring the moment, the incredible news sinking in. How far along? Not far, she admitted, her voice a little breathless. I just confirmed it with the doctor this week. You're not upset we didn't talk about it first? She asked hesitantly, a flicker of worry. It happened while I was switching birth control. It was a complete surprise. No, intrigued. Absolutely thrilled, I said, my voice rising with excitement, a surge of pure joy. I can't wait to marry you, buy a house, and have 4 kids, maybe even 5. I laughed, the image filling me with warmth. 4, she gasped, mock horrified, hitting my chest playfully. I need to keep my figure, you know, and I'd like to see my feet before I'm 50. You'll be the prettiest mom in the PDA, I teased, kissing her nose. The slimmest MILF in the Bay Area, guaranteed. You say the nicest things, Alex, she said, smiling warmly, her eyes shining with happiness. I love you, Chloe, I said, holding her close, feeling incredibly lucky, incredibly blessed. I love you too, Alex, she replied, her voice filled with tenderness. My divorce was finalized 2 months later, a quiet, anticlimactic end to a tumultuous chapter, and Chloe and I married 2 weeks after that. We kept it small, intimate, just family and our closest friends, exactly as we both wanted it. Hannah and Sarah were her beaming bridesmaids, while Noah and Liam stood proudly as my best men. We bought a charming house in Vista Hills that needed some renovations, but with help from my dad and my supportive coworkers, we fixed it up quickly, turning it into our cozy dream home. Life moved fast, a whirlwind of new beginnings, but everything felt right, effortlessly flowing. Chloe and I had finally found the life we were always meant to have, a journey of rediscovery and profound love. 6 months after Chloe and I married, our beautiful son, Leo, was born. Holding him for the first time, seeing his tiny fingers curl around mine, was an overwhelming, almost spiritual experience. And watching Chloe with him, her face alight with maternal love, was even more moving, more beautiful. She was a natural, loving, patient, and gentle, a perfect mother. Leo became the center of our world, and our life felt complete, filled with a joy I never thought possible. Now, Chloe is expecting again, a baby girl this time. The scans show she's healthy and strong, and we're already planning her arrival, excitedly decorating her nursery. Mom and Dad are thrilled about another grandchild. They fully embrace their roles as doting grandparents, though they're slowly but surely slowing down with the family business, transitioning into a well-deserved retirement. Ben and Clara are no longer part of it. Clara left Ben a few months after my remarriage, unable to tolerate his true nature any longer. She got a restraining order against him and moved back to the Central Plains to be with her family, to heal. Mom and Dad told me she finally saw Ben for who he truly was: manipulative, controlling, and eventually violent, just as Chloe had warned. After she left him, they forced him out of the family business entirely, unable to reconcile his actions. He's now a silent partner, like me, drawing a minimal income, and works for another contractor in San Jose, a ghost of his former self. I rarely think about him anymore, his presence a distant, insignificant echo. Chloe was right all along. She saw the truth before anyone else, her instincts sharp and true, and I've come to trust her judgment completely, implicitly. She's not just my wife. She's my anchor, my confidant, my guiding star. Last weekend, we took Leo to my parents for lunch, a beautiful, sun-drenched afternoon. It was one of those rare, peaceful afternoons where everything felt perfectly aligned. Mom and Dad played with Leo in the backyard, their laughter echoing, while Chloe and I sat on the porch swing, watching them content. I can't believe how everything turned out, how perfectly it all unfolded, I said, holding her hand, intertwining our fingers. Your dad was right, Alex, Chloe said with a gentle smile, resting her head on my shoulder. It all worked out for the best, didn't it? I kissed her hand and leaned back, savoring the moment, the warmth of the sun, the quiet joy of our little family. Life wasn't perfect, no life ever is, but it was ours, and it was undeniably good. Looking at our growing family, our beautiful children, I knew we had everything we needed, everything we could ever want. Chloe rested her head on my shoulder, sighing contentedly. Do you think she'll have your eyes, Alex? She asked about our baby girl, her voice soft with anticipation. I hope she has yours, Chloe, I replied, smiling, kissing her hair. Chloe laughed softly, a sound that always filled me with joy. I hope she gets your patience, then, and maybe your optimism, and maybe your stubbornness, I teased, nudging her. She rolled her eyes playfully, a familiar gesture. You'll never let that go, will you? Never, I said, pulling her close, my arms wrapping around her protectively. "I love you, Chloe." "I love you too, Alex," she replied warmly, her voice full of reciprocal love. Watching my parents play with Leo, holding Chloe's hand, feeling the soft curve of her pregnant belly, I knew this was everything I'd ever wanted, a future I had only dared to dream of. Chloe would always be the love of my life, my first, my best, and my last.